Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Welcome back into the Sports Buffoons studios. I'm your boy JG, holding it down. I am coming to you from Lake Tahoe on the California side. We're in a bit of a transition period here at the Sports Buffoons. The Buffoons are actually on vacation right now, and so that's why we're coming to you from off-site. We're transitioning studios. Still going to be coming to you from Kansas City. But for right now, this is JG holding it down. We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a little bit of NFL, NBA. I've also got the JG Fantasy Mock Draft 1.0, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Speaking of Lake Tahoe, they had a American Century Celebrity Golf Tournament here a couple of weeks ago, and one of the guys playing in that tournament was Aaron Rodgers, and so I wanted to start off the show today by giving you my take on the Aaron Rodgers saga. Now, he has reported to training camp, so the long-awaited decision from Aaron Rodgers finally came just the other day. He said he actually considered retirement, but I am happy that he threatened the Packers there for a while. And for me, the Packers are just too old school. And Aaron Rodgers said it was never about the money. And I can see where he's coming from on that, because I just look at the roster here, guys. And, you know, if I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, he had to threaten to hold out here. And the reason why it was not about the money was because you just got to look at the roster, and let's look at the pass catchers that he's got to deal with here. Now, he's got Davante Adams, so we would call him an elite wide receiver for sure. But look at the rest of his pass catchers. He's got Allen Lazard, Equanimeous St. Brown, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Robert Tonyan, Mercedes Lewis. They drafted a guy by the name of Amari Rodgers. And then they got a guy sitting on the end of the bench by the name of Devin Funchess. Yes, Devin Funchess is still in the NFL. I know it's hard for you guys to believe. But let's compare that roster to the other roster of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you look at it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective. He's got Tom Brady sitting over there, and that's the guy that you've got to beat if you want to get to the Super Bowl. And so let's compare that Packers core of pass catchers to what the Bucs have to deal with. So obviously you got Tom Brady on the other side, and he's got a bunch of weapons over there. He's got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, and Rob Gronkowski. And so this is my take on the whole Aaron Rodgers saga. I don't blame him for threatening the Packers, threatening to hold out, because those two groups of pass catchers there, it's very difficult to compare the two. I mean, Tom Brady has so much more to work with. And I think if you're looking at it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, you're trying to tell the front office, get me some freaking help over here, guys, okay? Because, you know, those two groups of pass catchers don't compare. And so I am glad that Aaron Rodgers did show up. Now we got to sit here and see if Davante Adams is going to be able to get his contract situation worked out. I think they will get it worked out. And I think this is sort of a last dance scenario, if you will. So you're going to see Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams this year playing for the Packers. And after that, I think it's over. I don't think they're going to play for the Packers next year, but definitely understand Aaron Rodgers' concern. And I think they're going to be great this year. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I do think they are the second best team in the NFC. Now, with that, we are going to move on to the NFL Power Rankings. So I'm going to give you guys my preseason power rankings. I'm going to give you my top 15 teams going into this NFL season. I'm going to start from the bottom here. My 15th best team in the NFL Power Rankings, it's going to be the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins overachieved in 2020, and Tua played a lot, but I still see him as more of a rookie in his second season. The offense is changing a little bit with Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, and so I think you're going to see a lot of big plays with the Dolphins this year. But I still think they'll be at best with their running game and their intermediate passing game. It's all about Tua this year, guys, so it's still too early in his career to evaluate how good he will eventually be. And he's got a long way to go in his development, but I've got the Dolphins at 15. So the 14th best team in my power rankings, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to have to worry about their defense this year because that's a strength, it seems like, every single year. And with the Steelers, I think the defense is enough to keep them relevant. The problem for me with the Steelers is that Big Ben is washed. And you could clearly see last year that his arm strength is on the decline. And that's part of the reason why I rank them below my next team, which is number 13. I've got the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans are going to go into camp knowing that they basically have the same offensive identity as last year. I love the addition of Julio Jones playing alongside A.J. Brown for Ryan Tannehill. And it's an elite play-action passing game. And then you have Derrick Henry's power running. I think the Titans can move the ball, and they can score with anybody in the AFC. But I think as far as their defense is concerned, they're not quite as good as some of the AFC teams that I put ahead of them. But they will have a potent offense. It's going to be exciting to watch. Julio Jones is getting up there in years. So my question is just how long is he going to be able to stay healthy? I think if Julio Jones is healthy, I could easily see the Titans going 11-6 this year. But I've got the Titans at number 13 in my power rankings. Number 12, I've got the Indianapolis Colts. And the big question here is, what are we going to get out of Carson Wentz? I mean, is this going to be the MVP level Carson Wentz? Or is this going to be, the injury-prone Carson Wentz? And so for the Colts, we all know that they have a great roster. The reason why I have them at number 12, which might seem kind of low for some people, it's because of Carson Wentz. We haven't seen him play at a high level for years. So if he stays healthy, I would easily have the Colts in my top 10. So they're at number 12. Number 11, I am going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, that might seem a little bit low. I know a lot of analysts out there have the 49ers much higher. They dropped, 7 games, after losing to the Chiefs. And everything was tied to devastating injuries. And so I got a lot of questions about the 49ers at quarterback. And much like the Colts, we know this is a top 10 roster. We just don't know what to expect from the quarterback position. Trey Lance has a lot of potential, and so we'll just have to see how he develops. But I've got the 49ers at number 11. So moving to my number 10 team in the power rankings, I've got the Seattle Seahawks. And so I like the change here for the Seahawks at offensive coordinator. So I think you're going to see a lot more dynamic concepts, less predictability. They've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, I think the running game is going to be better. And I think it's going to give Russell Wilson the opportunity to be a contender for the league MVP. And that's especially because of their defense. I think they're going to have to score a lot this year. I don't think their defense is going to be worth a darn. So I think Seattle's going to have to put up a lot of points because, like I said, it's going to be kind of a mediocre defense. So moving to my number 9 team in the power rankings, I've got the Dallas Cowboys. And so big thing for the Cowboys this year is let's see if Dak's going to be able to stay healthy. They've got a great roster. They're going to be fully loaded offensively. And I think their defense is going to improve. You know, it seems like the Cowboys are overrated every single year, but the talent level is too good this year. I think they've got to be able to make some noise. They should be able to win the division, but I'm not going to be shocked if they cough it up and let the Washington football team win the division 2 times in a row. So I've got the Cowboys at number 9. Number 8, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. And so the Ravens, they've got more weapons this year for Lamar Jackson. They always have a good defense. And so that's something that they can always depend on. And my biggest issue with the Ravens is that I think they're too predictable. I think a lot of the teams, they already know what the Ravens are going to do. They're going to run the ball. So I think for me, the biggest issue with the Ravens is predictability. They're going to be in the mix atop the AFC because of their defense. But I just hope that they're going to unleash Lamar Jackson this year. I mean, we all know that he's a running quarterback, but I want to see him throw the ball a little bit more this year. I don't actually want to see him rush for 1,000 yards because that, like I said, that just makes them too predictable. And as far as adding Sammy Watkins, I mean, you look at all the teams that Sammy Watkins has played for throughout the course of his career, and, you know, he doesn't play a whole lot of games. So he's getting older. I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to depend on him. And so I think Sammy Watkins is going to be a non-factor this year for the Ravens. But I do have the Ravens at number 8. So moving up to my number 7 team, I'm going to go with the LA Rams. Now, they have been dropping down the list in many of the analyst power rankings, and that's because of the injury to Cam Akers. Still a lot of hype here behind the fact that they added Matthew Stafford at quarterback, and I think there should be a lot of enthusiasm in the fact that Matthew Stafford has been added because, let's just be honest here, he's better than Jared Goff. I understand they lost Cam Akers, but we got to be clear here. This is an elite defense. It's not a good defense. It's an elite defense. And I think that even if they have to go running back by committee, which they probably will, people are going to be shocked at how good this offense will be with Stafford. I think Sean McVay made a huge bet by doing this quarterback swap, and I think the bet is going to pay off for Sean McVay. So I have the Rams at number 7 in the power rankings. Moving up to number 6, I'm going to go with the LA Chargers. Now, the defense is going to be better this year. Now, they had injuries, and their coaching was not very good at all last year. In fact, I think the coaching wrecked their season last year. But they do have Derwin James, the all-pro safety, coming back. He's basically the best defensive player on the team. And Justin Herbert is going to be in a new offense that I think will be better suited for him after his stellar rookie season. And so I think you're going to see Justin Herbert improve. Like I said, Derwin James back from injury, playing alongside Joey Bosa, Chris Harris Jr. I've got them as the most underrated defense in football this year. So Herbert won Rookie of the Year last year with bad coaching. And so I'm definitely not going to see a sophomore slump here with Justin Herbert. I've got the Chargers at number 6 in the power rankings. So moving up to number 5, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. And I realize a lot of people out there have the Browns much higher this year. And they do have a great roster. And I do think they're going to find a higher gear with Baker Mayfield being a more reliable complement to the strong running game of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. This is an amazing roster. They added Jadeveon Clowney to the defense, and the secondary got better. And the reason I have the Browns drop down a little bit compared to everybody else is, like I said, from a roster standpoint, this is a top 3 team in the NFL. So they should go 13-4, just based on that roster. I just don't trust Baker Mayfield yet. And the thing about Mayfield is he always plays better when Odell Beckham Jr. is not on the field. So I do have some concern here about the team chemistry with Odell coming back. And I hope these guys can prove me wrong. But I've got the Cleveland Browns at number 5. Now, moving up to number 4 in the power rankings, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills here, guys. The Bills are going to have an explosive offense. We all know that. They're going to try to find more in the running game just to have a little bit better balance. And I think Buffalo is going to score a ton of points this year. My biggest issue with the Bills is I think they're going to have a mediocre defense. So nothing wrong with being number 4 in the power rankings. But they're going to have some issues with depth, particularly at the cornerback position behind Tre'Davious White. Offense will be explosive this year with Josh Allen. But I like the defense of this next team a little bit better. So I did have the Bills number 4. Number 3 in my power rankings, I said I like their defense better. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. So Aaron Rodgers is back. We don't have to worry about that turning into a big mess, even though he'll probably be gone next year along with Devontae Adams. So I've got the Green Bay Packers number 3 in my power rankings. Happy that Aaron Rodgers finally worked it out here. This could be the last dance, as I stated earlier, with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So if that's the case, they're going to be the second best team in the NFC this year. And in the last 10 regular season games last year, that defense held its opponents to an 81.2 passer rating and only gave up 12 touchdown passes. And Jair Alexander is a big part of that. So it's not an elite defense, but they're a really good defense. And that's why I put them slightly ahead of the Bills. And so I've got the Packers at number 3 in my power rankings. So let's move up to number 2 here. Now, I'm going to go with the Chiefs here, guys. And so the main reason I put the Chiefs number 2 is because I don't want to jinx them. We are a Chiefs show, and we got a bunch of Chiefs fans on the show. So definitely don't want to jinx the Chiefs before this season even starts. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs at number 2. But honestly, you could flip a coin to determine whether it's going to be the Chiefs or the Bucs winning the Super Bowl this year. So Kansas City, they haven't lost very much around Patrick Mahomes. They've made some tweaks defensively to be the AFC front runner. And so Mahomes gives the Chiefs a floor that basically matches their ceiling. And so for the Chiefs, it's all about protection. And so that's, to me, the only reason why they lost the Super Bowl last year is protection. So you got to protect your franchise player in Patrick Mahomes. So I love the new offensive line here. If you were to install this offensive line into last year's Super Bowl game, I think Mahomes finds a way to win that game, although I think it would have been close. But I think he would have won that game, even with his foot injury. I've got a little bit of concern here with Frank Clark's situation, but I think, even if Frank Clark misses a couple of games, I'm not going to really care. So if Frank Clark misses 2 or 3 games, as long as he plays well the rest of the season, that's not going to bother me too much. But the Chiefs are what I would like to call co-favorites to win the Super Bowl. And like I said, you could flip a coin. I got the Chiefs at number 2 in my power rankings. So moving up to number 1, we're going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so the Buccaneers have become heavy favorites to win the NFC again. And unlike every other champion in the modern Super Bowl era, they were able to keep all key components of their team together. And so they basically brought everybody back. So we know the drill here. Everybody's back, roster's loaded, blah, blah, blah. Brady came out and said that he was injured last year, and he still won. So, big deal. They try to make a big deal about Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl while injured. Well, nobody cares because guess what? Mahomes was injured as well. So he was playing with an injured toe. But for the Bucs here, it's all about the defense. So the Bucs have the projected number 1 defense in the NFL. And while the Chiefs could field a top 10 defense, the Bucs are just flat out better on that side of the ball. And so I do have the Bucs as number 1 in my power rankings. So those are my top 15 NFL teams preseason in the power rankings. So speaking of the NFL, like I said earlier, we do have the JG mock draft for fantasy. JG's mock draft 1.0, I'm calling it. That's coming up a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. But I've got to talk a little bit of NBA here, guys, because the NBA draft is today. And so that's going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern. And breaking news right now, I've got the sources telling me that Cade Cunningham is going number 1 overall to the Pistons. And that's the dynamic 6'8" point guard from Oklahoma State University. He was a one and done as Big 12 Player of the Year. So congratulations to the Pistons. They're going to take Cade Cunningham number 1 overall. But we got to talk a little bit of free agency leading up to this draft because there's word out there that Dame Lillard wants out. And I don't blame the guy. He needs to get out of Portland because they're obviously not going to build a team around him. So there's a couple of trade scenarios here, and one of them has to do with Ben Simmons. So if you guys haven't heard yet, the Philadelphia 76ers have been shopping Ben Simmons. They want to get rid of him because he can't shoot. And I'm not trying to make that an insult because I think he's so young that he's got a lot of time left in his career. He could certainly develop a jump shot. But for right now, the Sixers trying to get rid of him. And so they were saying a couple of scenarios here where the Sixers could either try to make a trade for Damian Lillard or they could go after Porzingis. And I saw that on ESPN and I thought, why in the heck would you try to trade Ben Simmons for Porzingis? So not sure why that was on ESPN because that's not going to happen. The Sixers have already said, without a doubt, that they want to get not an all-star caliber player, they want to get a superstar caliber player for Ben Simmons. And so for me, the only way they're going to be able to do that is to throw in some draft picks because they're certainly, if you're looking at it from Portland's perspective, they're not going to give up Dame Lillard for Ben Simmons straight up. And so I think the Sixers would have to add a little bit to that trade. But if the Sixers could somehow acquire Dame Lillard, this is the roster that you'd be looking at. You would have Dame Lillard, Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Matisse Tybal, which is that guy's an elite defender. Tyrese Maxey, probably not going to bring back Danny Green. Danny Green's a free agent. He could possibly be going to the Lakers, but I think that would be a great fit for Dame Lillard. And so if I'm the Sixers, whatever I have to add, whether it's draft picks, I'm going to do whatever I can to try to get Dame Lillard. But from Dame Lillard's perspective, I would not want to go to the Sixers. And here's why. Why would I go to the Sixers when I can go to the Golden State Warriors? And so two different perspectives here. If I'm a Sixers fan, or if I'm working in the Sixers front office, obviously we're going to do everything we can to get Dame Lillard. But from Dame Lillard's perspective, I want to try to go to the Warriors because just think about this roster. If you had Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, assuming that he's healthy, and then either Draymond Green or James Wiseman, you're a contender. You're probably the favorite to win the championship because we all know the Brooklyn Nets can't stay healthy anyway. So that would be the prohibitive favorite to win the NBA Finals. And so if I'm the Warriors, you got an aging Steph Curry, and obviously Dame Lillard, he's not getting any younger either. But if you're the Warriors, you got to win now. So that window is closing. And Steph Curry, he's probably got this year and next year to play at a high level before he starts getting injured all the time. And so I'm looking at the Golden State Warriors right now in tonight's draft. They've got the 7th and the 14th pick. And we're probably going to post this show, guys, first thing in the morning. So the draft will have already started by then. But if I'm Golden State, I'm going to trade the 7th and the 14th overall pick. I'm going to give it to the Portland Trail Blazers before this draft even starts. And I'm going to say, here you go. You guys can have these picks. You just give me Dame Lillard, and I will throw in Draymond Green or James Wiseman. Whoever you want. I don't really care. You can give them the 2 first-round picks. You can give them either Draymond or James Wiseman, and then you can throw in Andrew Wiggins or Kelly Oubre. And so I think that's a blockbuster trade that should happen. And I think the Blazers, they're going to be in a rebuilding situation anyway. And so that's the blockbuster trade that I want to have. I want to see happen before this draft starts tonight. And then obviously we got to talk about the Lakers. So a lot of word out there that the Lakers might have a chance to acquire Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. I think that'd be a great fit for the Lakers. The only problem is, I know the Lakers, they're trying to get either Russell Westbrook or Damian Lillard. Well, they're certainly not going to get Dame Lillard because they have no assets. They gave up all their assets to get Anthony Davis. But for me, to see DeMar DeRozan, I am a Spurs fan, and I don't want to lose DeMar DeRozan, but I would like to see him go try to help the Lakers get a little bit better. DeMar DeRozan from Compton, California, so he'd get to go play in his home again. A lot of word out there that DeRozan could actually go to the Clippers, but I would like to see the Lakers get DeRozan. And the other thing that the Lakers need is a point guard, and so I would like to see Lonzo Ball go back there. They drafted him. And I think Lonzo is a much better fit than Kyle Lowry, just simply because Kyle Lowry is about ready to retire. And so I would like to see them get Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan. I think that would be a great fit for the LA Lakers because that's another team. When you're talking about teams that need to win now, the Lakers, they got to win now. Because Anthony Davis, he's not very old, but he gets injured almost every year. And then you've got LeBron James, who we think LeBron's going to be around for 3 or 4 more years, but how long is he going to be able to play at an elite level? And so I hope the Lakers can make some improvements there. But that's my NBA free agency take going into tonight's draft. So I do want to hear you guys' thoughts on Twitter. Let me know your guys' thoughts on what things you think should happen in the free agency for the NBA, because there's a lot of deals to be made out there. Obviously, the biggest package to acquire is Dame Lillard. But let me know who you think Dame should go to, or any other guys out there. Let me know what moves you think some of these teams should make. But we're going to have a little bit of fun right now. So we're going to do the Fantasy Mock Draft 1.0 according to JG. And I'm just going to go first round here, okay? So this is a 12-team league. We're going to do a mock draft, and I'm going to give you my picks as I believe they should go. So I'm going to give you my advice in fantasy for this first round of your fantasy drafts. And so with the first pick of my mock draft 1.0, it's no surprise here. I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. So his ADP is currently 1.2 in Yahoo leagues. And I'm going to say this is a half-point PPR, guys. So in a half-point PPR, this is the way a draft should go, according to JG. So Christian McCaffrey, ADP of 1.2. McCaffrey had a strong track record of durability right up until last year. And he returned healthy for the off-season program this spring after battling injuries. And so the Panthers, they used a fourth-round pick on a running back, but that's not a big deal to me because Mike Davis is not around. He went to the Falcons. And so McCaffrey is going to get a lot of workload here. And so sounds like he's going to be in his usual three-down role in week one. He's an RB1, and for me, he is the RB1 in fantasy drafts. So I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey with the number one overall pick. So moving to number two, we're going to go with another running back. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. Now, his ADP is 2.5. And so team success and durability are the clear areas for improvement, with Cook now safely established as one of the best running backs in the NFL. And so in 2020, he averaged 111 rushing yards per game. And so over a 17-game span, that would be about 1,900 yards. So for me, the reason why I'm putting Dalvin Cook number two overall is because he's got a potential to rush for 2,000 yards this year. He's going to be 26 years old in August, and he's going to play in an offense that looks a lot similar to last season. So I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook with the number all over two pick. So number three, I am going to go with Derrick Henry, the Tennessee Titans. So his ADP on Yahoo is 3.3. So no discrepancy there. I'm going right along with ADP so far in my mock draft. Derrick Henry typically is run behind impressive offensive lines in Tennessee. But it wasn't up to its usual standard last season. Because they had an offensive lineman that tore an ACL. And so the Titans, I think they're going to be a good offense this year. And so their defense has got a few question marks, but as long as you've got a good running back on a good team, you definitely want to draft him. So I'm going with Derrick Henry as my number 3 overall pick in this mock draft. Number 4. We're going to go with Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. Now, he's got an ADP of 4.8. So I love Alvin Kamara. I mean, the fact that Drew Brees is gone doesn't affect anything for me. I think that with Kamara, you know what to expect every single year. Now, he was dealing with a hip issue last year, and so he played 15 straight games before missing week 17 on the COVID-19 list. But he finished the regular season with career highs in rushing yards. He had 932 total rushing yards, and then he had, 1688 rushing yards, and he had 21 touchdowns. And so he could regress here a little bit, but I still like him ahead of some of these other guys on the list. And the bottom line is Kamara, we all know, he's one of the best running backs in the league. And so if I've got that fourth pick, I have no problem taking Alvin Kamara. All right, so with the fifth overall pick in JG's mock draft 1.0, we're going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. So he actually posted career lows, 979 rushing yards and 4 yards per carry in 2020. But much of that regression was due to a lot of injuries along the Cowboys' offensive line, as well as a sluggish overall attack in the wake of Dak Prescott's season-ending ankle injury. But I've got Ezekiel Elliott, number 5 overall. His ADP is 7.7. They say he looks great in training camp, so I think I'm definitely calling for a reach here for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, a lot of people are wondering why I didn't take Jonathan Taylor here. Well, I mean, he's got an ADP of 5.9, and I think he's going to be falling in draft boards because basically Marlon Mack is 100% right now. And so there's no way I'm going to think about taking Jonathan Taylor, number 5 overall, if this is going to be a split backfield. And reports are that it could potentially be 50-50. So I've actually got Jonathan Taylor falling out of my top 12. So even though he's got an ADP of 5.9, we're not going to touch Jonathan Taylor here. So moving on to the number 6 overall pick in JG's mock draft 1.0, I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. And so we know that Nick Chubb is due for an extension here. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I believe that Chubb loves playing for this team. And I'm not worried about Kareem Hunt taking carries away from him. His ADP is 8.3. But what a great roster that is. I mean, the Browns are going to be a good team this year. And so we're playing fantasy football. We like good running backs on good teams. So don't hesitate on taking Nick Chubb. I'm going to take him at number 6 overall. Mm-hmm. So moving on to the number 7 overall pick in the JG Mock Draft 1.0. A lot of people would think this is a reach, but now that Aaron Rodgers is back in the fold in Green Bay, I'm going to go with Aaron Jones, number 7 overall. His ADP is 12.2, but you got to remember there's no Jamal Williams here. And so I'm not worried about A.J. Dillon. This, to me, is a 3-down role for Aaron Jones. And so this is a great situation here. Aaron Jones, he's been above 5.0 yards per carry in 3 of his 4 years in Green Bay. I don't see that changing this year. He's only 26 years old, coming off back-to-back seasons with over 1,000 rushing yards. So I'm going with Aaron Jones, number 7 overall. And for number 8, I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. And his ADP is 6.8. And we really don't know how healthy he is here, guys. So you could be in a draft and you could easily see Saquon dropping down your list. So it's kind of a high-risk, high-reward type situation here with Saquon. I have no problem taking him with the 8th overall pick. He's only 24 years old. He's not commenting on his expectations for returning to practice or games, but the expectation is that he is going to return sometime early in the season. And so I have no problem taking Saquon Barkley here at number 8 overall, just because he is an elite talent. So moving on to number 9 in the mock draft 1.0. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill, which technically that's my first wide receiver off the board, but I don't see Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver. I mean, he's a gadget player, and he can line up with the running back. And so Tyreek Hill can do a little bit of everything. His ADP is 8.8, so I have no problem at taking him. At number 9, he's only 26 years old, and I expect huge things from Tyreek Hill this year. So he's definitely my first Kansas City Chief off the board. Number 10, I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. Now, he's got an ADP of 11.5. Now, he was injured last year during the playoffs, but despite the injury, he put up 311 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in 3 playoff games. Though he was held to 77 yards in the AFC Championship game loss against the Chiefs. But the bottom line for me here, guys, with Diggs, as I told you earlier, this is going to be an explosive offense. And so Stephon Diggs is going to eat in this offense no matter what. And so his ADP is 11.5. I have no problem taking Stephon Diggs at number 10 here. Moving on to number 11, I'm going to go with Austin Eckler. Now, a lot of people might see this as a reach since his ADP is only 16.9. I'm going to take Eckler at number 11 in the draft because considering the type of player Alvin Kamara developed into under Coach Lombardi's system in New Orleans, it's entirely possible that Eckler could be even a more prominent weapon, especially if the team opts to motion the running back out as a wideout more often. And so I think they're going to be using Austin Eckler all over the field this year. And so I would say Austin Eckler is underrated. So if you can get him at number 11, guys, I mean, by no means, I don't think this is a reach at all. So his ADP at 16.9 is a little deceiving here. So I'm going to take Austin Eckler at number 11. Number 12, the rounding off the first round of the JG Mock Draft 1.0 in fantasy. I am going to go Davante Adams. Now, they have broken off negotiations for his extension. But guess what, guys? The Packers have no choice. They got to get the deal done, and they got to get it done soon because Aaron Rodgers is back in the fold. This is the last dance. Okay, so after this year, you're not going to see Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams playing for the Packers. So Packers organization, they got to figure out a way to get this deal done. Davante Adams' ADP is 14.9. But for me, Davante Adams, he's already proven himself to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. I have no problem taking him at number 12. And that rounds out the first round of the Mock Draft 1.0 in fantasy. And that's the way that I see it. So that's the JG Mock Draft. I'll give you guys a couple of bonus picks here, though. At 13 and 14, I can't end the show without doing this. Number 13, we got to go with Travis Kelce. ADP of 12.3. We know what he brings to the table. You could take Kelce a little bit later. I understand some people, they don't want to take tight ends too early in the draft, and I understand that. But I have no problem taking Travis Kelce or Kels, however you want to pronounce it, with the 13th overall pick in my draft. And number 14, we got to do it. We got to go with my homeboy. My homeboy at number 14 in the mock draft. His ADP is 14.6. I don't have to say anything about Patrick Mahomes. That's my homeboy. I'm going to take him at number 14 overall. I don't care what your format is. It could be a half-point PPR, full-point PPR, standard league. We don't care. After my homeboy, you guys all know my strategy. We like to wait for quarterbacks. But if you can get Patrick Mahomes 14th overall, you're going to take him every single time. So that is the JG Mock Draft 1.0 for fantasy. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the Lake Tahoe show. I was very happy to be here. We will be back with you. We are going to have the full clan back with you as usual on Wednesday night. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the Lake Tahoe show. We will be back in our new spot, coming to you live from the Sports Buffoon Studios next Wednesday. So I thank you guys for joining, and I hope to see you on the next one. JG, out.